Thank you so much for the really good overview. I think I have gone onto the platform a few times and I am registered and I've had a look here and there, but there certainly is a wealth of information and such useful resources, you know, and all put into one place, because it can sometimes get quite overwhelming about where to go. So thank you for that. I had one question around the species trait database. It's one of the projects that I've been involved in, not as the lead, but as a sort of a contributing researcher. And we're sitting now with a traits database that's like an Excel spreadsheet version, and we have visions of linking it to FBIS, but again, the old problem of no funding yet. Is there much potential? Because obviously that traits database was developed specifically for Europe, for expanding to other, basically expanding the database to incorporate other regions, and or some traits might be more universal than others. And I wouldn't mind just a little bit of a chat around that. Would be quite interesting.
Yeah, we were approached already by South American people, and also we discussed this already several times, whether the database can be extended to other continents. And I have also very many users who are requesting access to the database from North America, for example, and so on. And I always tell them, okay, this is meant for Europe, so I'm interested in how you can use, and this is what you said, Helen, that some of the traits are more general for all the continents. So yes, I would be highly interested in expanding the database. So the structure, I think, could easily be taken over, if you like, the way we have it, because we have coded all our species traits and all ecological information in numerical values, and these numerical values can then query it. As you have seen by with the predators example, you define whether a species is a predator or not by just saying it has a more than 5 point in the category for predators. Because this is because we need such kind of information for the European assessment system. So in Europe, you have the Water Framework Directive, and according to this directive, we need to assess our rivers, and this needs to be based on organism groups, so-called biological quality elements, and therefore we need all this information. The database went first online in the year 2006. And it was mainly developed by our institute. So I have a software developer who is working on it. So it is not kind of any open access technology. It's just building on demand what we need. But I think we could easily cooperate, and we can easily have a discussion on what might be best for you in South Africa. So I would be happy to do that.
Right. Well, pursued, and there may be other colleagues in other parts that would be interested in that as well. Thank you. Sharon, follow-up, you've got a question? Hop on.
Hi, thanks very much for that talk. I suppose a question to both of you, both Astrid and Gerald. Astrid, you put up a blog page, which I think is a very nice idea, and I just see you put up some stuff around pesticides. And I was just wondering, was there any demand for, or did you think about this, possibly another page looking more at drivers of change, or is it really the data related to freshwater biodiversity only? It was just interesting with the blog page, it was starting to talk about these kind of challenges for freshwater biodiversity. And then Gerald, I suppose the same to you with AquaHub, with these joint degrees around management, just also the consideration of these big kind of challenges and drivers of change. So just maybe hearing something around that. Thanks.
Well, let me start. I couldn't hear you well, Sharon, but I suppose the question was about Now I'm a bit lost.
Let's say it again.
No.
So are you collecting any data on these drivers of change within the platform?
The platform was first really focused on biodiversity, but when the BioFresh project ended, we saw that we could not focus only on that, so we opened it up. And also our maps in the atlas are related to very different topics, for example, also on the drivers. So we are basically open for anything that is kind of related with freshwater.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. I'm also not sure whether I understood you correctly, but the way I understood it, it's about the management issue and in terms of change processes. Of course, since we get the funding from development cooperation institutions, change processes, this is what is all about. Particularly for the platform, we have this component of water resource management, and also the policy aspect is in there. As a matter of fact, the scientists are much more eager to contribute and to connect and to network than other sectors. But of course, we have, when I look at the members we have at the moment, I mean, we have quite a number of people from the federal governments of the target countries who are in there, particularly water resource management and water quality aspects are a big issue. But the idea is actually to connect the different stakeholders. So that is really people at the ground, like schools who are doing, who are working at the grassroots level with children when it comes to biodiversity. And water related issues, freshwater related issues, up to the scientists and of course the decision making people. I think there is no other way than working hand in hand and to connect to each other. But of course, it's a long way to go. It's quite a challenge.
Right, thanks. Helen, I wouldn't mind just following up with Gerald a little bit, but I don't know if you've got other hands there. I think you're muted, Helen.
I am, sorry. Go ahead, Sharon. There are no other hands up. I've got one more question, but I'm happy to present it after you finish the conversation. So please go ahead.
I suppose, Gerald, where I was going with it, I think the Aqua Hub is a really nice idea. And, you know, it's nice to be connected more internationally and more globally. And often what we find when we're talking about freshwater issues is, you know, there's this kind of enthusiasm around let's say the ecological. And then quickly those discussions turn into why are we losing, you know, freshwater biodiversity and assets at such a rapid rate, et cetera, et cetera. Do we have commonalities? How do we address them? You know, so it pulls us into that space. And I partly wondered out of the Aqua Hub, I mean, it sounds quite early on, but you know, often the way these discussions go is it ends up with working groups forming, trying to work around certain issues, and just that strength in those kind of international relations often really helps. So it's more of a comment than asking you anything specific. Just kind of noting, okay, that might be where it ends up going.
Thank you. It's a nice comment. I fully agree.
Yeah, I was also keen on the networking through the Aqua Hub. I think in starting our workshop, you know, the African Systems seminar series, it was partly to create a community of, you know, like-minded people. And we haven't gone to the point of creating a web interface or a website. So, I mean, maybe there's definitely scope for, you know, if there is the option for expansion beyond East Africa, you know, that you create what's already been created rather than reinventing the wheel and just expanding. And there's a lot, as Sharon said, you know, a lot of benefits to be had by, you know, speaking to international colleagues and local colleagues who share the same experiences and deal with the same issues on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, it's really amazing. I mean, what you have put together in this seminar series. I was not, I mean, I was aware about this and that going on in Africa, but the seminar series, it really brought everything together in a very compact form. And I think it's definitely a critical mass being there in Africa. And now the challenge is to go the next steps. But it's absolutely amazing, and well, I don't know, Astrid. We would be happy to have something like that in Europe, actually. And I mean, the credit, of course, goes to GRS. I mean, which funded a lot of those activities. But it's really such a nice starting point, and the more the challenge is, you know, to take off and to contribute, going to the next level.
I was already saying this during the previous series, that it's really great, the different portals that are emerging there. And if you have seen our portal now, you know what is outdated is the European one. So we would really need someone like JRS Foundation in Europe focusing on mobilizing freshwater biodiversity data. So this is an issue. There's still so much data out there, and it just needs to be mobilized. But yeah, we are missing the funds.
It's always a challenge. It's always a challenge. But I think, can I dive in with another question of mine? No. Two questions. Maybe I can just ask them at the same time. The one was, how do you keep tabs on new users, the data? I mean, I know people have to register, but on the outputs, the data products, you know, it's one of our challenges in FBIS where, you know, people register and we know who's registered, but we're hoping in the next phase to develop a mechanism for capturing what reports are papers, reports, how the users are actually using the data. So that's the one question. And then the second is, you know, we all know that the GBIF taxonomy is good, but it's lacking in some respects. And I love the fact that FADA exists. And I'd be really keen to just hear a little bit more around the planned kind of integration of FADA in GBIF, you know, how, because obviously I was chatting recently to Helen James, the Mayfly taxonomist from the Albany, and I know she was part of FADA as well, but the GBIF taxonomy is just so far behind, you know, for certain taxonomic groups that people are actively working on. And again, you know, it underpins the value of the biodiversity data. So maybe you could just chat to that on the second point. Thanks, Astrid.
Okay, as to who is using the data, well, different parts of the information platform have you have to register. So for the freshwater ecology database, you have to register. And there we know who is actually requesting access, but we do not know whether they use the data and how they use the data. I mean, I always write them an email, please, if you use the data, send me the publication or the outcomes of it. But this actually happens rarely. But 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, I had to present the platform, and then I made an extensive internet research and checked who and which papers came out of it. But well, we certainly cannot track this. This is a little bit a problem. And all the other parts of the FIP, for example, the tools page, so we will never know who is using the tool. So this is just the way it is. I don't think we have started with tracking softwares on our website, but this doesn't tell you anything. If someone visits the website and then stays there for 5 seconds or half a minute, then you cannot say the person is using the website, or I don't know. So we have not found any reliable tracking opportunities for such a collection of data. And for the other stuff, the GBIF and the FADA integration, I think we are not very far from being there, but it would need, again, sorry to say this all the time, but Gerald already said we all are soft money employees. So for me personally, it would just mean I would need a little bit, would have a little bit more time just to keep track, to start again the discussions with GBIF that we had already, and then just moving the things forward. It's, yeah, it's basically, it just needs a person who could focus on that. And the FADA is maintained in Belgium by our Belgian partner, but there it was very unfortunate that the person in charge left for another job and he was not replaced. So this is why everything got a little bit slow here. But I see the need now again, the need to have this taxonomy, and I will try to restart the process again, say as of autumn.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. I think it'll be really useful. And maybe, I don't know if GBIF ever provides funding for improving the taxonomic backbone. Like,
I have not heard of that, but it's probably a good idea just to ask.
It's worth trying, especially if we can motivate how many, you know, organizations, and especially with the development of FBIS and now the Rwandan version and potential rollouts to other places, you know, where we rely on the GBIF taxonomic backbone for serving up the biodiversity data. I think we may have some more ammunition for twisting a few arms there. But thank you. And yeah, the issue around data usage, I think your experiences are kind of what we're feeling at the moment. So, but thank you for sharing your knowledge. Sarah, I see your hand is up. Would you like to go ahead?
Okay, thank you, Helen. And of course, I would like to commend Astrid and Gerald for the very informative presentations. It's really nice to see what you are working on, but I have some, maybe 3 questions or comments. I see you have the Freshwater Metadata Journal. I don't know how long it has been going, and I don't know if it has already in an impact factor rating or not yet. Secondly, Astrid, you mentioned about the Freshwater Biodiversity Network, which is listed in GBIF. And my question is that you see in the series we are in, some of us are working on river basin-wide databases, which means that some of the occurrences, for example, of species may not necessarily be right in the rivers, but they may be somewhere within the basin. So I don't know how appropriate those kinds of data sets that, for example, our project on the Tana River Basin has published would fit into that, because it would cover quite a large number of data, some which will fall into an actual freshwater point geographically, others will be outside. So I don't know how well they would fit in. The third comment is about the future of maintaining platforms. You explained clearly the challenges of how to maintain these kind of platforms. And as you can see in under this series, there are many platforms that we have set up. And I don't know from your vantage point what you would advise us, because some of these platforms are built in institutions that work on freshwater, so they have a much better advantage of maintaining them in a much better way. Some of them are platforms arising from a project which is funded for the first time through the JRS. and therefore they will have probably much bigger challenges. So I don't know what you could advise us from your vantage point, having developed a platform where I know that the EU, you have more resources, and yet you still face challenges. Thank you.
Thanks, Zero, for your question. Starting with the last one, what I would advise you. So I think I would be a bad advisor because we didn't manage to cope with all these challenges, these funding challenges. Basically, I would say whenever you build up a new portal, it makes sense to build it up based on an existing portal. So for example, if you're using the South African technology and Rwanda uses the same technology, then whenever one or the other runs out of money, these could be easily merged, for example. But if you have now different portals that are only funded by this one project, I cannot give you an advice other than find maybe industrial partner who funds who can fund you, or it's really difficult. And what I always say, Europe is giving us a lot of money. The European Union is giving us a lot of money for developing such tools, but they do not give us money to maintain these tools. And this is a major shortcoming. And of course, it is even more difficult in your country. So I'm sorry to say, but I cannot give any advice that might help, other than trying to connect most of these portals so that they can commonly work, and maybe you can help each other then. And to the other questions, the Freshwater Metadata Journal, it was also created during the BioFresh project, and it has no impact factor yet because it's also difficult so it's published by our institute. And it's difficult as a non-profit publisher to get in this database of Clarivate. So it's just, it's all open access. It's in the directory of open access journals. It's listed there, but it does not have any impact factor. Of course, it's a shortcoming, and you saying this now, I will try to once again that we can reach it, but I'm not so very convinced that we will be successful. And as to your data of the Tana River Basin, what I really would like to link to this freshwater network on GBIF is freshwater data. So we would have to separate your data or divide your data into terrestrial and freshwater ones, and then maybe only upload the freshwater ones. I mean, what our portal was able to do was to filter freshwater data out of such data sets. But as this is not working anymore, I cannot offer this opportunity. So I'm not sure. So the best solution probably will, I don't know whether Helen or Jeremy, does your portal feature this? If you upload a data set that it just marks the freshwater ones, or it just selects the freshwater ones and then publish the freshwater ones? Is this something that you're...
Yeah, so our FBIS is really just freshwater. You know, the whole focus is freshwater. But we have the opposite problem where we use our taxonomic master list to download GBIF data for, say, for example, aquatic insects. We get all the insects, you know, I mean, the terrestrial and the aquatic phases. So because there isn't that filter on GBIF to separate out freshwater from terrestrial, we just have an alert message, you know, note GBIF data includes terrestrial species in some cases.
Yeah, this would also be an advantage of moving this taxonomic backbone forward with GBIF, because then we are talking with them already a very long time that we need to flag the species as freshwater or not freshwater, or at least intermediate ones if there are some, and then it would be easy just to select them. But this is part of the whole backbone taxonomy process that is on hold for a moment.
And the other thing that came through in your FIP was, you know, ecosystem type. It's one of the aspects, you know, we're also including now, where you split up your rivers and your wetlands, not so much for GBIF, but just in terms of our own internal FBIS information system. You know. But yeah, if Sarah could split up their data set, I mean, it's already uploaded to GBIF, Sarah, isn't it? I think it's 27,000 odd records, presumably not split up into freshwater and terrestrial.
Yeah, we have up to around 27,000 records already uploaded. But of course, as I had mentioned, the challenge is that they are not split up. But from what you are saying, it looks like it might be possible to split that if you had some spatial layer, because then they are grid reference. Then you would probably be able to filter out what is falling right on a water body and what is not falling on a water body. So maybe that might be a way, but that would require some advanced programming, or maybe not to be able to do that. Yeah.
But Cyril, what we can do is just add it to the freshwater data sets as well. And then in the metadata, just give a note that this data set also contains so much percentage terrestrial data, so that freshwater researchers would find it on the network page, but are sure that are aware that they need to extract the freshwater data from it.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. Yeah, but perfect. We would be happy to link up with that.
That would yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity, Astrid, that you'd offer, you know, that's coming through, where all of the freshwater databases that have been uploaded to GBIF, you know, can get tagged as a part of the freshwater, what did you call it, the freshwater network? It just increases discoverability and therefore extends the reach of the data. And I think that's what we're all hoping to do. And we would be very keen to work with you on creating a blog on this seminar series. So thanks for that offer as well. I think that would be excellent. Jeremy's our especially expert blog writer and photographer extraordinaire. So I'll use his name as a go-to person for the network. Sarah, is that your hand still up from previously, or have you got another question there? Oh no.
Sorry, I forgot to lower, but I don't have anything.
No problem. Jeremy, please go ahead.
Astrid and Gerald, yeah, thank you for these really eye-opening talks. You know, it's so great to see what's happening outside of Africa, and some of this work that's been happening for way longer than what most of us have been involved in freshwater bioinformatics for. So my question's a little bit more airy-fairy, but I guess it's to both of you. If we had to fast forward maybe into 10 years' time into the future, and thinking about, you know, this goal of tracking change in freshwater biodiversity, not just in our little silos, but, you know, at broader scales, to feed into these big indices, like, for example, the Living Planet Index for WWF, to track population trends in vertebrates and even invertebrates. What would an ideal situation look like, say, 10 years down the line, with some of these African systems working together with what's happening in your parts of the world? Like, how would that look, and what are the key things we need to do to make sure that these data sets can sing together to feed into these really big global indices, so we can, move outside of our country boundaries?
I would say the ideal world would be that we bring GBIF to a reliable taxonomy and quality. And then it could, because all your systems are working together with GBIF. So GBIF really could be the global thing, but it would have to, you would clearly have to separate freshwater from nuts, freshwater species. Yeah, the taxonomy must be cleared up or cleaned up, and then we could use it as really the common thing which brings everything to come together. I would have suggested to, in the different countries of Africa, to use the same technology for all the countries that are building up portals. But I also understand the different views that I think the colleagues from Uganda said they wanted to have the local knowledge and the local employment. So this is also understandable, but as long as all the systems work together and feed into GBIF, this is fine with me. We only need to bring GBIF to a really good and reliable status.
Cool.
Maybe just a bit broader from my perspective. I think what is really needed to enhance the activities, again, at the grassroots level, so talking about citizen sciences. And then, of course, at the other side, which is really crucial, because those are the taxonomists. There is a big bottleneck. So whenever we send colleagues to Africa and the joint research, master, PhD projects, so whenever the husband of Astrid is going to Ethiopia or Kenya, he will come back with a good number of new species. In Europe, the taxonomists, you know, we have this kind of historical aspect that the old priests, the monks, they got interested and working on taxonomy. And in a way, the taxonomists are still the monks, because the publications are not in the high impact journals. And in terms of the career development, taxonomy is not a big issue. So we lost a lot of taxonomists, at least for Austria, I do know, and for Europe, I do know. So that I wouldn't say they are dying out like the dinosaurs, but there is a serious bottleneck. And when I look at Africa, the situation is dramatically different. For your countries, you know better than me. But since I'm working for more than 25 years now in Africa, I have some insights. So I think that is one of the biggest obstacles, because now we are dealing with environmental DNA. We are doing the next generation sequencing. All those methods are going to be implemented, and it's been started. It has been started in Africa already, of course. So not only South Africa, but as well in other countries. So there is a big boost. And what about this combining the classic taxonomy with the DNA methods? I think that is one of the big challenges, and of course that will also make the whole biodiversity information sector busy with the incoming genetic information.
Thanks, Gerald, for adding this, because the data that we might have in 10 years are only as good as the underlying identification and taxonomy. And it would really be very advantage if we could develop identification keys, for example. So all these portals only have a value if the taxonomy and the identification in the back is reliable. So I think this is something that addresses to JRS to fund in the next rounds, maybe do the creation of identification keys in connection with using eDNA methods and so. So thanks, Gerald, for adding this, because this is really, as you said, it's the taxonomists are dramatically declining. In Europe, the EU has launched a project now that wants to set up a red list of endangered taxonomists, just to see how many taxonomists are still there and where are the missing ones, or where are the gaps.
Go
for it, James.
Yeah, I mean, no, the same. Yeah, it all just sounds all too familiar, unfortunately. as there's these endangered taxonomists, and yeah, we've got the same thing here in South Africa with our freshwater fish being our most threatened group and most in need of conservation, but not enough people working on them to understand who are the different species, where are they, and what are their conservation needs. So, yep, can relate to that. And yeah, thanks so much for that global perspective on making sure we get really good interoperation with GBIF from all the African platforms, potentially through a curated portal of sorts, like we've been chatting about on the side. So thanks so much for that.
Okay, we've got time for a few more questions or comments if there's anyone still with a burning issue. Let's see, no hands flying up. I think I've gone through my questions. Let me have a quick. Yeah, I think it's been a fantastic session. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, as Jeremy said. And I think if there are no more questions, just end off for me to say thank you both so much. Astrid, you've been, very valuable member of the whole seminar series from the start. So thank you again for, taking the time out to join us. And we really do value your insight, and Gerald for sharing with us about the AquaHub, and let's see what can grow, how it can grow, and how we can align our various networks. And Astrid will be liaising with you independently around the various odds and ends that came up today. But thanks as always for being open for chatting.
Yeah, thanks a lot also for my side. Thanks for having us. And yeah, I'm open for discussions, as we said.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, and congratulations for the series. I hope we keep in touch.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. We'll be back in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, we've got Nancy Job and her colleagues from Sanby. So they're going to be telling us a bit about their new JRS-funded project. And I'll be sending out the titles and reminders about that next week. But as always, thanks everyone for joining. And yep, let's keep moving forward. Excellent.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.